All right, Bobby, I've got a question for you. What would
Okay.
you say was the greatest trick the devil himself ever pulled?
It was convincing the world that he didn't exist. And like that, poof, Jordan Factor joins us for the usual suspects.
Jordan Factor is here. Welcome, everybody, to another Hall of Fame movie edition of the Pozcast. As Bob said, we're doing the usual suspects. And with us, Jordan Factor. Jordan has been on the show before, but since you were last here, Jordan, you have joined the fraternity of podcasters. You have gone out, started a podcast with our guy Foreman. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? How's it been going? What's that experience been like?
It's been fantastic. It is, for those who haven't seen it yet, Gin and Jews. And we hit on just a wide variety of topics, from Valentine's Day to the morality of hunting to the question of have we been to Mars? There's really no rhyme or reason of what we're going to talk about at any one point. And it's invitation only right now. So for those of you listening that have not seen it and can't find it, it's because right now we are selective with our audience. So we're entertaining tens of people right now. And soon
It's an interesting strategy, Jordy. You know, Mark and I are putting our heads together. We're on social media. We're trying to get it out. Guests help. We're trying to increase the numbers. You on purpose are keeping your numbers low. I haven't read that strategy before. I don't think that's how Joe Rogan got to where he got, but I'm interested to see how it goes because I'm one of the select few that has an invite, and I am so excited and honored that I'm part of that. No one knows where the show's going to go, where it's going to go next. It has the best and I'm not being hyperbolic. I got some comments. I used that word before. It's the greatest intro to a podcast, TV show, or anything. It is top notch, man. It's awesome.
Well, thank you for the plug. And you are special. If you're watching the Gin and Juice podcast, think of yourself as like a VIP. When we begin charging thousands of dollars to watch this, we only need like 30 people. So
I like it. It's 4D chess. Well, back to the task at hand. We are here to talk about one of the great movies of the last 30 some odd years, The Usual Suspects. Jordan, we'll start with you. You know, look, you love Lord of the Rings. You probably thought, hey, we're going to come to you and come with let's put Lord of the Rings on here and do it. But you said, The Usual Suspects, and not a shocker. I mean, it is a great movie with an unbelievable ending. But why The Usual Suspects? Why did you want to do this with us?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Poz. Because I know I wanted to come here.
What's happening?
And talk about the greatest movie of all time.
For those of you who are listening only, that zipping noise you heard, fortunately, it was just his top jacket, and he is exposing a Lord of the Rings shirt. Who knows how he got that, with the big ring to rule them all on it. Please tell us more about this shirt, Jordy.
Well, as you know, I love this. My precious. I would talk to you about this writing, but it's written in the black tongue, and I shall not speak it here. But one day, I will convince all of you of why Lord of the Rings is one of the greatest movies of all time, if not the greatest movie of all time. But today, I'm here to talk about what I think is one of my top 10 movies. And the reason I think it's one of the greatest movies of all time is it has the most epic plot twist in the history of movies. It's the first time ever that as soon as the movie was over, I was like, I got to watch that again. I totally missed the entire movie. And it was a good movie while I was watching it, excellent in parts. But when the plot twist came, I was like, the writing is exquisite. I was amazed.
It really is. Look, for one, you don't need to convince us on Lord of the Rings. We'll definitely get to it. And I think you described this movie, The Usual Suspects, very good. It's a very, very good movie with an unbelievable ending that kind of takes it over the top, puts us in our Hall of Fame. So, Bob, tell the listeners, where do we have it ranked? Why do we love it? Why is this in the Hall of Fame?
Well, before I get to that, I just have to make sure we discuss, Jordy, if we do Lord of the Rings, because I know this will get some comments from some folks. Is it 1, 2, 3, all? What do we do with the Lord of the Rings?
It's all of them. It's 9 hours of cinematic history.
Maybe we'll do a watch along. We'll just get on this podcast for
Absolutely.
9 hours and watch it. I'm sure that'll be good. This movie, so we have it at number 50 on our top 135 movies. You had texted me, Mark, you couldn't get on the page where we keep this, and he said, where is it ranked? And I was looking at it, and it was 50, and that kind of surprised me. I didn't think it would be that low. After watching it and after really studying the movies we have above and below, I think it is very, very well placed in our list. Now, that doesn't mean it's not great. It's the ending we've talked about. We'll talk about it a million times on this podcast. But what makes this movie so awesome is that it's just very, very cool. It's a really cool movie. You know, if you think of the movies we've done before, Shawshank Redemption is not I wouldn't consider that a cool movie. It's one of our top 3 favorite movies of all time. So that's not being disparaging to that movie. I don't know if that's a cool movie. I looked at our list, some other cool movies. Obviously, every single Tarantino movie is cool, right? That's the way I would describe every single one of his movies. It's cool. The Town is cool. The Matrix is cool. The Dark Knight is cool, right? The Joker is cool. You know, Boondock Saints, which is kind of one that's kind of the outskirts that maybe not, that's just a cool movie. And this movie is just really, really cool. Almost like it should have been directed by Tarantino. It'd be interesting if he redid it. But also, if you think about, now it won an Academy Award for basically the writing of the script of the movie. And, you know, if you think about the movie, the action scenes are not even that good. They're actually kind of bad. Some of the action scenes at the boat, some of the fight scenes, they're actually kind of bad with some weird action and weird actors. But the script is so tight and it's such a perfect story that even to this day, when I rewatched it for this podcast, there's still things I'm confused about or could go either way. Now, not because I'm confused because they did a poor job writing it, but they did such a good job writing it. I could read a sentence and watch a screen. Jordy could watch the same screen. You could watch the same screen and interpret it totally different. And I think we've already talked about this in pre-production. I'm convinced of something that isn't necessarily against the grain, but after watching this movie, I think I'm right on it, and we'll probably disagree on it. So it's just a great, great movie. We've got it at number 50.
Well put. It is a cool movie, and it's interesting that you say that because it's not just the ending. The ending is unbelievable and what kind of vaults it from a very good movie to a great movie, but it holds up. A lot of times, some of these movies where they got this big twist, it almost kind of ruins it the next time you watch it because you just know what's going to happen. You don't have that same experience. To your point, Bob, as you rewatch this movie, I've probably seen it 15, 20 times at this point. You notice something different every time, and you question, wow, did I miss that? The first time, was he really trying to do this? So I think it's very well put by you. You mentioned the screenplay. Our guy McQuarrie wins the Academy Award for the screenplay. Now, McQuarrie most notably goes on to be Tom Cruise's muse later in life. He writes all the Mission Impossibles. He does Top Gun Maverick. He's doing the next Top Gun Maverick. So it's a good guy to hitch your wagon to, kind of like Factor hitching his wagon to Foreman. Both similarly successful for both guys. Spacey, who we're going to talk about a bunch, wins the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. And how about this for a twofer? Because Spacey's kind of a newer guy, and this is released in August of 95. How about a month later, September of 95, Seven comes out. He's John Doe. He goes Keyser Soze to John Doe back to back. I don't know if anybody's ever had a better 2 months. Jordy, what's your relationship to this movie? It makes $67 million in the theater, which is fine. I didn't see it in the theater, kind of like you, which you said, I watched it at home. I got a Blockbuster video and immediately rewinded back to the scene with the bulletin board. What was your recollection of the first time you saw it?
Great movie. It was one of those that got recommended to me by my brother and my father. And they're like, because I really didn't have much interest in it. I didn't know anybody in the movie really. But they're like, oh, you got to see it. And I was like, okay, it's good. It's good. It's good. And then it hits you. And I got to say, I didn't know who Kevin Spacey was before this movie. And his acting, if it weren't for him, I mean, there were some great actors in this, but obviously he had just a monster role and so much time on screen. And he just sucked me in. I couldn't stop watching. And I was hanging on every word, and I felt bad for Verbal Kent getting beat up by the police.
He did.
This is a good time to have the disclaimer. Whenever Spacey is talked about, we're talking about Spacey the actor. There's been some alleged thing. I just heard a rumor he's been acquitted of everything in Europe. I don't know where I got that data from, but we're just talking about Spacey the actor because he is an incredible actor, and we'll talk about that obviously as we look through this movie. Kind of a weird thing when you talk about the writer McQuarrie and the director Singer, Mark. You know, this is almost an outlier project for both of them. As you said, McQuarrie is starting to write. Now, he won an Academy Award for this, but then he started. I wouldn't consider these Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movies expertly written, or they're not getting nominated for Academy Awards. Then you look at the films that Bryan Singer has directed, and there's a lot of X-Men. There's Bohemian Rhapsody, which was critically acclaimed, which was a good movie, but this is so off their normal or kind of their historic norms. It's really, really strange. Did you get a chance to look at their IMDb's and notice the same thing?
Yeah, it is kind of a pivot. And I don't know if that just sort of follows where everything's sort of gone now. Like, hey, you come out, you sort of prove yourself as either an actor or writer or director, and then you go the comic book route and make big budget blockbuster types of movies. So maybe that's kind of what happened with McQuarrie and Singer. I don't know, but this is an outlier, but it's my favorite piece that each one of them have done. Would it be your favorite of theirs, Bob? I assume it would be.
Yeah, it's definitely the favorite of their IMDb. There's some cool stories about how Singer put this thing together. So listen to this. So the original idea, now remember, this is a completely original screenplay, right? Not adapted, not from a book, not from anything, completely made up. He said, really, to use your word, the muse for the whole movie was the lineup. He had this thought of the lineup, and they make comments of it in the movie. Usually in a lineup, you got one crook, and then, he talked about, hey, they usually put homeless people in there for you. But he had this idea of, I wouldn't call them great criminals, but, professional criminals in a lineup. And listen to this too. It is widely known that none of the actors during filming knew who Keyser Soze was. Nobody knew who the main character of this movie was. And famously, Byrne, who plays Keaton, was pissed when he figured out he wasn't Keyser Soze. So I don't even know how that's possible. I guess that's not why I'm a director, but there's some really cool stories about how this whole thing came about and got started.
It's an unbelievable job by him. I did read that story. It does kind of, like, if you watch the movie, like, I don't know how Keaton thought he was. He's killed by Keyser Soze in the beginning part of it. You don't know how they film it. You don't know exactly when he saw it, but it's probably like doing your podcast, Jordan. You have no idea where Foreman's going to go. These actors had no idea where Singer was taking them with Keyser Soze. Let's take you back to 1995. Here were some of the big movies. Jordan, you're a big Toy Story guy. That was a big movie in 1995.
Loved it.
Great. Apollo 13. That'll be on the podcast, right, Bobby?
Yes.
7, which we talked about, which comes out a month after this. And the Academy Award for the Best Picture in 1995, Bob. A little story about William Wallace. Braveheart. 1995. What a year, right?
All Hall of Fame movies. Several of those you just named are extremely high on that list. What a great year for movies, as is the case with almost every year in the 90s, in those mid 90s years.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good debate at some point to kind of talk what is the best year. Jordy, you mentioned, and look, a big part of anytime you talk about The Usual Suspects is the twist ending, is sort of the shocking twist of events. I wrote down sort of my favorites on that. Tell me if you have any others, Jordan, or what do you think of these? So I mentioned Sixth Sense. Bob asked me on the Shawshank Redemption pod, hey, there's a twist at the end of that. He goes, what's your best one? I immediately said Sixth Sense. I stand by that because, kind of to your point, when Sixth Sense ends, I immediately rewound it and wanted to rewatch it again. Like, how did I miss this? How did I not pick that up? So I got that. I've got 7. That's a good twist at the end with Kevin Spacey as well. Fight Club and Memento. And a last one I'm going to throw at you that doesn't get talked about enough, Planet of the Apes. Like, if you can recall the first time you saw Planet of the Apes and our guy Charlton Heston is cruising down the beach in that horse and sees the Statue of Liberty, that had to just throw people for a loop at the end. But Jordy, where do you stand on some of these other twist endings that I just mentioned?
Obviously, I would put Usual Suspects number 1, but Sixth Sense The other ones you're saying twist and did I miss? Where's the Shawshank Redemption twist?
Well, he had a poster hanging over a hole in the wall for 30 years that no one knew about. I mean, that's kind of a twist. He escapes from
a different.
Okay.
But when I think about the two where I was absolutely blown away, it would be this one, Usual Suspects, and Sixth Sense. Sixth Sense, I had absolutely zero clue the whole time, and that's another great movie.
The Village is, The Village is an incredible one. That's another M. Night Shyamalan. It's one of Mary Pozodik's favorite movies, actually, and which is Wow is right. So that's a really, really good one. And Shutter Island is probably deserves to be up there in that conversation for a lot of different reasons. But a very good twist.
Another question for you, Bob. We're going to talk a lot about Keyser Soze. Who is Keyser Soze? If you had to pick between the two, who's scarier, Crazy or Keyser Soze? Which way are you going?
Oh, it's Crazy. Crazy doesn't. There's no mystery with Crazy. Crazy. He's not playing any stupid games, right? He's just walking into a room saying, "I'm John Crazy. I don't really care if you're going to play some silly games about that." And I know where you're going with this, Mark. I know where you're going. And no, it's not better than Man on Fire. So we can just move on.
Man on Fire remains undefeated. I've got one final. Did you know? And I guess it would have helped to have been able to speak the Turkish language, but Soze, the Turkish word for verbal. So I guess if you were watching this movie and you knew Turkish, might have given it away as far as who was Keyser Soze was. Any other did you know or any other facts and figures you want to lay out there before we get into the categories?
I need to, piggyback on what you just said, because I found that piece. And actually, Kaiser and Kent in other languages equals speak. As you mentioned, Soze and verbal in another language equal king. So it makes him the king of speaking. But there's some other tiny little gems that are in there from the very beginning when they show Keyser Soze. They don't show all of him, but they show that he's got a gold watch on and he's got a gold lighter and a cigarette. And at the very end, verbal, the only three things he gets when he's leaving the police station: gold watch, gold lighter, pack of cigarettes.
Bob, anything else you want to do before we hop into our favorite scenes?
Well, let's sit in this for a little while here, because remember, you're only watching what Verbal Kent is describing. So you can't does Keyser Soze have the watch and the lighter and this? I don't know. Does he? We're talking about Kobayashi. Kobayashi was a type of cup. So did that lawyer even exist? Is that lawyer's name Kobayashi? There's Chinese writing on Kobayashi's lawyer's door, which is, if you look on the internet, if I believe the internet, that says Kobayashi. So, but is Kobayashi real? So that's what's great about this. And this is why I've shifted some of my views. And also, none of you should trust anything we say, because I saw that Keyser Soze means emperor. So none of us are right or wrong. It's just kind of whatever you want to do.
You just got to stick with your sources.
You got to stick with your sources. What I saw was Bryan Singer had a friend, who had a professor named Keyser Soze, and he says that's a great villain's name. And then when he described who he's going to have Keyser Soze, and the professor's like, no, I don't want to be associated with basically the devil. You might want to change his name. We've done this the past couple of movies also watched, right? So when you go on IMDb I had to pay for this movie again. Bob's Continuous Beef, although the next movie we're doing, free on Prime. Nobody's more excited about than that. Also watched Shutter Island. We talked about that. Obviously, you kind of get some of the algorithm of crazy endings. Vanilla Sky. That's kind of a cool movie. Beautiful Mind. Another very good twist ending. Beautiful Mind.
That's a good twist.
Yep. LA Confidential. So those also people also watched is a very good topic to look at. So yeah, let's get into best scenes.
Yeah, you got it. You mentioned a good thing, Bob. He's an unreliable narrator, right? And it kind of almost hurts your head the more you watch it. Like, what am I even watching here? He's telling a story. What was real? What wasn't? I guess that's the genius of the writing. But let's go in. Let's just assume that what we watch sort of happened. So our favorite scenes, and this, we're kind of doing it the same way. Everybody gets their honorable mention, kind of your second place and your favorite scene. Jordan, as our guest, we're going to let you go first. What was your second favorite scene of The Usual Suspects?
My second favorite scene would have to be when Kobayashi came in with the briefcase, and the guys are all playing pool, and his voice is like, it's like vanilla in your ears when he's talking, you know, and when he hands them all the envelopes, and even though Keaton says, you know, give me one reason why I don't kill you right now, it doesn't faze Kobayashi or what his name is at all. But what's another interesting factoid is that if you look back and go through the order of the names that are handed out, you know, Fenster, Hockney, McManus, it's the order in which they're killed in the movie.
Nice.
Did not know that either.
I did not know that. That's a nice pull. Yeah, Kobayashi is a really cool character. It's a great introduction to him. Bob, your second favorite?
Well, this is a heist movie. This is a gangster movie, not gangster movie, but a criminal movie, and you have to be introduced to the cast of characters. And basically, the beginning lineup, as you get introduced to these guys, you kind of know everything you need to know about them. You know, you got Finster, who is obviously my favorite and probably a lot of favorites, and you know exactly who he is. You know, McManus is the guy that's kind of off kilter. You know, Keaton is the smart one and the mastermind. We already know who Verbal is, and then Hockney. I've got some questions on Kevin Pollak. Is he a good actor, bad actor, terrible actor, worst actor? Is he a comedic actor? Is he a dramatic actor? I can't figure that guy out. I'm a University of Florida graduate. I know it's a painstaking process to explain that to everybody that listens to this podcast, but there's this thing called Gator Growl, and they have stand-up comedians. They've had Seinfeld. They've had a bunch of. My senior year at Florida, it was Kevin Pollak. It was absolutely terrible, booed off the stage. So I don't know what he is other than Lieutenant Weinberg from A Few Good Men, but I got some questions about Hockney. But that, when you get introduced to everybody, is my second favorite.
It's really good. I think that was a poor casting decision. I have some questions about that. I think you hit it right. And Bob, one of the things I do love about movies is a heist movie, and one of the things you get in a heist movie is being introduced to the whole cast of characters. So I think you nailed that. My second favorite, the New York Finest Taxi Service. It kind of, you know, you find out that Keaton was an ex-cop, kind of went dirty, kind of leads into his thing, kind of sees the execution of these guys. And I think you get some funny lines and some funny acting in that. So that would be my second favorite. On to the favorites. Jordan, your favorite scene. Do it to me.
It's probably a lot of people's favorite scene. I mean, when that coffee cup falls at the end and they take you through the roller coaster that, just like Boz said earlier, you suddenly realize that nothing that Verbal Kent said it had anything to do with reality. Kobayashi's on the cup, you know, on the bulletin board it says quartet. Verbal had said he's in a barbershop quartet, and it's from Skokie, Illinois, and Redfoot is there. So suddenly you have to question everything from the movie. What was real? What did I just watch? And that was just, you know, my all-time, you know, one of my favorite moments that I'll even go back now and find it on YouTube and watch it again because it's just so good.
100%. Easy to rewatch that scene over and over and over again. Bob, where are you going on your favorite?
Well, it's gonna involve our man Kobayashi, and I'll just throw it out there right now and let it marinate because we're gonna come back. I believe Kobayashi is Keyser Soze. I don't think Spacey. I don't think Verbal Ken is Keyser Soze. I think Kobayashi is. But just let that just kind of float it out there. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But when McManus when they're in the office building and McManus is hiding in the elevator and he executes the bodyguards, and now it's just him and Kobayashi, and they think they've got the jump on Kobayashi, and Kobayashi just very calmly says they've got Edie Finneran. and they've retained Edie Finneran on this extradition case. So they know he's got the upper hand, right? John Doe's got the upper hand now. And Kobayashi just knows that he's got them all. He knows that they're not going to do anything. And he sits down at that table with Edie Finneran, and he just looks out the window and just nods at him. I mean, he is the man. Kobayashi is the man in this movie, which has just recently changed for me. I used to think it was Verbal, but I think it's Kobayashi.
Yeah, Kobayashi was, on this rewatch, really stood out as just being a really cool character. My favorite, I'm just going to go right before what you said, Jordy, the end, like, so right before the cup drops and all that, is when Agent Kujan basically thinks he's got it all figured out. He's peppering Verbal. He's giving it this. He's solved it. It's Keaton. He's going on and on and on. And it's really fast paced, kind of to your point, Bob. The writing is really good. And it's just sort of a chaotic scene, which sets up the twist. So I think you need all of that with Kujan and Verbal to get that sort of bang on that twist. Bob, what'd you have?
Pete Hasselthwaite, who is Kobayashi and the florist from the town. Steven Spielberg. You ever heard of Steven Spielberg, Jordy? You ever heard of Steven Spielberg?
I have. E.T.
Claimed he's the best actor in the world. Said that about Kobayashi. Or maybe he didn't. I don't know. I mean, I read it, and who knows?
High praise from one of our best directors. All right, we've covered most of the major scenes that were in there, and Jordan, your favorite on that twist, going to be on there for a lot of folks. All right, quotes. We'll do the quote draft. Jordan, you've won the toss. You're going to go first. Give us your favorite quote, or one of them. I mean, we might do one or two. There's not a ton of quotes. They kind of repeat a lot of the same things over and over again, so they get reused. But Jordan, where would you go with a favorite quote here?
I would go my second favorite, which was right at the beginning at the lineup, and I was going to make, all three of us should have to say, "Hand me the keys, you cocksucker."
Okay, time out. I need a 30-second timeout. This is what makes the Gin and Jews podcast so good, because you think it's going one way, it goes the other. We had a pre-production meeting, and I don't want to spill the beans, but we talked about, hey, we don't want to talk over each other. We don't want to say our favorite quotes and this and that. And we agreed on kind of and he just totally didn't pay attention or just did whatever he wanted. So, good job. I guess good job by you. I guess
one.
It's a good one. It is a good one.
But if you're going to do it, can we do it like McManus? I mean, Jordy, don't hold back. Do it like McManus or do it like Finster, whichever one. Come on.
Hand me the keys, you cocksucker.
Well done by you. Bob, where are you going? Well, give me a quote.
I'm going there because that's my favorite quote. That's what I was going to do. He said he wasn't going to do it, so I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it better because McManus goes, but then Finster says, "Give me the fucking keys, you cocksucker." What the fuck? Sorry for cussing.
Oh my gosh. That is unbelievable. I will pivot a little bit. I'll get off the lineup. I'm going to steal a Kobayashi quote, one that I really liked. It said, "One cannot be betrayed if one has no people." That's some life advice to think about right there, and maybe play into your theory, Bob, that Kobayashi was actually Keyser Soze. Jordan, give us another quote.
This one is, I use this all the time. Ever since that movie, I've used this. My favorite quote. And Verbal is talking about Keyser Soze, and he says, "Keaton always says, I don't believe in God, but I'm afraid of him. Well, I believe in God, and the only thing that scares me is Keyser Soze."
Yeah.
Goosebumps. It's just
good. Along those same lines, and this isn't a quote I use, but it's so good when he is telling the story of who Keyser Soze is. And he realizes, and they go back in time, and the long-haired Keyser Soze is there, and he's got his family. And he said, he showed these men of will what will really was. And that's just like, and then he kills his family, unfortunately, which fast forward to worst parent. I don't know if there can be a worst parent who executes their family. But my other one is Finster too. I flip you for real. I love that.
Finster is good. I'll go with one final one. How do you shoot the devil in the back? What if you miss? And he kind of puts up his hand there. So good job, you two, on the quotes. I'm going to give the win to Jordan. Sorry, Bob. Tough beat by you.
Because he cheated. He totally cheated,
baby.
All right. The movie is almost 30 years old, so it's interesting to see what holds up. What do we still love? And Bob, we clearly are suckers for narration. I don't know how many of our favorite movies have it, but they seemingly all do. I had almost forgotten that it was narration because it's verbal telling the story. So it's kind of like him telling the story, but it's also background narration. So clearly I'm a sucker. We're a sucker for that. And I'll just go with another one. Young Benicio, a clean shaven Benicio Del Toro. I almost forgot what he looked like, but it was fun to see him back then. I think he has really held up over the years as a heck of an actor. But Bob, where do you go? What are some things that hold up for you?
You know, telling cops to go F themselves. I don't know about you. Like when a cop pulls me over, I'm still terrified. I'm 46 years old. At least I have at least a couple bucks in my pocket to pay the ticket. When you get pulled over at 18 and the ticket's $150, it might as well be $1 million. But I'm still nervous. I'm still 10 and 2. I'm still yes sir, no sir. Thank you for your service. Like all this, but I love guys that are just like, yeah, go F yourself. That holds up all the time. I love that. Criminals hearing about a job. I always love that. Does that really work that way? Like there's just a bunch of criminals hanging around and they got a job. I mean, who's calling in this job? You know, that one section like Redfoot, I got too much work and not enough guys. Who's calling in these criminal behaviors to do these jobs? Who are those people? And how does their too much work? Narrated movies. Here's what else holds up. And I'm going to ask you guys this a little bit later. It's Keyser Soze or the Hungarian that says Keyser Soze. I love the Keyser Soze. I love that. Movies that start with the end. You know, I'm a big fan of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of them is begin with the end in mind. I love, how about that for a poll? When the end of the movie is the beginning of the movie. Movies with a twist, not tits, twist. Also talking to what age is best, aging. A young Benicio Del Toro, and then you watch him in this Netflix movie, Reptile, and it doesn't look like he's had 1 ounce of plastic surgery. His face is just like melting off. And I'm like, good for you, man. Him and Tommy Lee Jones, you know, just good aging, good old fashioned aging. We're old. Our faces are melting off. And then what holds up? Kevin Spacey as an actor, not all the other stuff, but he is just looking at his IMDb, man. He is just awesome as an actor. Awesome as an actor. So,
he is incredible. I was not expecting Stephen Covey to come out. Jordan, do you have anything that holds up 30 years later from this movie that you still love?
Well, I'm looking for a drink of water because when I hear somebody say begin with the end in mind and Stephen Covey, I get such work PTSD. I threw up in my mouth a little bit. If you said laser sharp focus, I may have had a heart palpitation.
It's beginning with the end in mind is rule number 2. Number 1 is be proactive. I can go through them all if you'd like, but
I'm good. To me, they had some all-stars in there. There's certainly some people that were forgettable to me. Keaton was forgettable to me. McManus, forgettable to me. I could have easily seen them die early. I could have had, Benicio Fenster till the end. But what's troubled me, and I didn't look it up earlier, who played Redfoot? He's been in a lot of things. He's a great actor.
What's up?
Do you know who that was?
I think it's James Green, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he is kind of one of those guys that you just sort of see in a bunch of movies. That is a good pull for you. On the casting thing, that kind of moving into the we have questions. I agree with you, Bob. Kevin Pollak is a tough guy. I just had a hard time buying it. He is Lieutenant Weinberg. I mean, I just thought he was a weak link in that cast. I also question, thank God there's closed captioning, subtitles. I don't know how I ever understood. Look, my hearing's not the greatest, but I don't know how I ever understood what Fenster was saying without closed captioning. I mean, can you understand a word that he's saying in this part?
Yeah, every single word. Next question. No. Every single word. Are you saying closed captioning is what holds up well? We're on the Jordy took us off.
Questions. We're into we have questions. I was like, thank God for closed captioning because I don't know.
I'm sorry. I missed that. I apologize.
I agree with you 100%, Boz, on the Kevin Spacey. I'm not going to say put his personal life aside, but put his personal life aside. I don't even know how they say he's a supporting actor in that movie. He was that movie. Chaz Palminteri is great. He's got a great backstory. He used to do a one-man show. He was, a downright, with the gangsters.
True.
And he's been in some great movies. He was great too. But Kevin Spacey, that was just a home run.
Couple things on the casting there. I don't know, we're going a little offshoot, but so Chaz Palminteri, they offered it to Christopher Walken. They offered it to De Niro and Pacino, but Singer really wanted Chaz. And Chaz Palminteri, his schedule opened up. He was there for 1 week. All of that stuff with Verbal was done, and all before the whole movie was shot. All that was done. Redfoot, who is kind of a throwaway character. By the way, when he flicks that cigarette at McManus, that was real. It hit him in the eye, and he got all pissed. But that was offered to Jeff Bridges, Johnny Cash, Chris Cornell, Tommy Lee Jones, Charlie Sheen, James Spader, and Christopher Walken. Now, I don't know what offered means. I guess if you're a struggling director, I could say I actually offered Kevin Spacey a spot on this podcast. He denied it. He didn't come in. So, but kind of some cool there. You want my questions, Mark, or you got more questions, Jordy?
No, go ahead. Save some for Bob's big question coming up later. But what do you got?
Oh, I got him. Are we going like to the biggest question? Like, if Keyser Soze is the devil in human form, do we really need to get these 5 people and this elaborate scheme and this 91 million and the weapons and the this and the that for him to kill one bumbling moron? And that rat was a bumbling moron. I know if we play this out, I'm basically saying, why did we have this movie? But did we really need this whole movie to kill that one guy? If you're Keyser Soze, Mark, I think you're agreeing with me on this one.
Yeah, it's kind of there are a lot of these in movies when you go back and look, but you could basically eliminate this entire movie. If Keyser Soze is the devil reincarnate, he just goes and kills our guy, Arturo Marquez, and we don't have a movie. So I don't even know how you answer that. You're right, Bob. It is we're just going to overlook that, I guess, for this.
I got questions on, I don't think it's 90s casting, but I've got a big question. So when Redfoot comes up, his crew looks like exactly the crew that shows up at Anchorman 2 when they have that big fight. I mean, it is a comic book full of characters. There's a Crocodile Dundee hat on. There's a guy that looks like he's a 50s guy from Greece. Like his
I was just going to say.
It's so bad. The other casting, the goons protecting the boat and the 91 million look like the scouts from Moneyball telling Brad Pitt that they don't know what he's doing. I know what it sounds like when a curveball hits a catcher's mitt. Just terrible casting. Keaton shivved a guy in jail. Seriously, I mean, Keaton's kind of soft. He's got that hair that he looks like he conditions every day. He falls for an attorney. Shivved a guy? I mean, I'm not buying that. And I think I had to rewind this and listen to this. Apparently Finster and McManus hijacked a plane when they're going through their resume of, Verbal's like, I know these guys in this. Yeah. Finster and McManus hijacked a plane. Now that's a movie I'd like to see. Snakes on a Plane ain't got nothing, and Finster and McManus hijacking a plane. And the biggest question of them all, who is Keyser Soze? I don't think if you're the devil incarnate, I don't think if you've got protection from the governor, the mayor, the president of the United States, you let yourself get put in jail. It's just not, that's not his MO. That's not going to happen. It's Kobayashi. It's Kobayashi. The look that they give each other when he picks them up after the big reveal. Again, everything you said that Keaton saw Soze kill him. Well, that's just what Verbal is saying. So you can't trust what the movie showed you. I'm more convinced now than ever that Kobayashi is Keyser Soze and not Kevin Spacey.
Jordan, where do you stand on this? Kobayashi is Keyser Soze? Are you buying Boz's theory?
I'm not buying that theory. What I'm buying is that Verbal Kent is Keyser Soze. He's a confidence man. He knows how to get other people to do his dirty work for him. And even though he could have accomplished all of this by himself, him and whoever Kobayashi may be, maybe it was just by himself, but I felt like he needed another person, another to pull off his BS. He got all these people to do the dirty work for him.
But no, he didn't. But no, he didn't. He had to pull the trigger. I mean, he needed all those people to get him on the boat. The guy killed his family, for God's sake.
But we don't know about that. I don't know about anything Verbal said.
The inherent trick
is that I don't know anything, because there is no Kobayashi. There is no Redfoot. Anything that I saw on that board, I have to take it in my mind and go, okay, that didn't exist.
No, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means Redfoot wasn't Redfoot and Kobayashi wasn't named Kobayashi. Right? Yes, he was. I don't think he was in a barbershop quartet in Skokie, Illinois, but there is a figure.
I believe.
Yeah, exactly. There is a figure. There is a figure of Kobayashi that's just not named Kobayashi, because obviously, why would he give up the name of Kobayashi?
Right. Well, we've solved nothing.
No,
we've solved nothing. Let's move on. We'll let that linger. I do have an against the grain kind of concept on this later on. All right, some fun award, a Matthew McConaughey Scene Stealer Award. Who steals the movie? Obviously, everybody in the main cast is ineligible, but Kobayashi is really only in a couple scenes, so we're going to make him eligible. Jordan, who's the best? Who's the best scene stealer?
Hold on, time out. I cannot let you do this. Of all the people that you've you're not disqualifying Kobayashi?
Not disqualifying him because he's the best guy. Jordan, who you go with?
I will not be listening to that.
Go. I told you, the guy's voice is vanilla in your ears. Everything he says sounds amazing. I would buy from him.
I would buy from him. Bob, what do you got?
Well, first of all, Kobayashi is not eligible, period. So I'm not listening to that. Another point about Kobayashi and Verbal Kent. Verbal Kent has got an English-American accent. Kobayashi's got some sort of accent. Remember who Keyser Soze is. He's Hungarian. He's Turkish. He's somewhere over there. He ain't American. He ain't American. This is. Go ahead.
I thought didn't he pull that from like Hungarian coffee on the wall or something like that? Do we know?
He was picking beans in Guatemala. That's what you're thinking of. Yeah.
You're right. Okay.
This is an easy one. It may be the only 2-time winner of the Scene Stealer. It's Fat Ass by a nose. Did you realize he is the cop in the passenger seat of New York's finest taxi cab? I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Fat Ass from Shawshank Redemption.
Nice
I remember looking at the IMDb of Fat Ass in Shawshank Redemption, thinking he's never done another movie, and lo and behold, there he is right there. In
two-time winner. Unbelievable.
No question.
Pulled by you. I agree on Kobayashi. If you're going to press me and say he's ineligible, how about your guy Arkash Kovash, who says Keyser Soze? I mean, he does a great job in the burn unit. Nice job there. All right. LOL, not a particularly funny movie. Jordan, did you have anything that just sort of made you laugh out loud? Maybe a funny quote or funny scene?
That first scene when they're all in the lineup, you just can't. That was the one place where I laughed out loud, because the rest there were little throwaway lines that maybe giggled, but in the beginning, it was good.
It was good stuff. Bob, anything different?
Yeah, when they're in the jail cell, and Keaton's saying, "Hey, this is all a ruse. They wanted us to get in there." Finster goes, "Oh, why did I get strip searched then?" He goes, "I had a guy's finger up my ass tonight." and Kevin Pollak goes, "Oh, is it Friday again?" And then McManus gets one after they're watching. The scouts from Moneyball are guarding that boat, and he's got the sniper rifle out there. He says, "Old MacDonald had a farm, and on that farm he shot some guys. Bada bing, bada bing, bada boom."
Yeah, Baldwin did. Not that Baldwin, not the other Baldwin, the other Baldwin. He did a good job. I thought he played a good kind of maniac in this movie. Yeah, the only thing that kind of just caught me was Verbal just saying he was a big fat guy, like Orca fat. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Bob, you've touched on this one a little bit. Best parent, worst parent, one of my favorite categories. Lot of contenders here in the worst category. I mean, it's a movie about criminals, so maybe we'll save that. Jordan, do you have anybody from the cast who was the best parent?
I have to think of it as, who would I want, my father to be? Does it have to be one of the criminals?
No, could be anybody from the film.
Anybody. Could be fat ass by a nose.
I love gangsters. I would have Chavs Palminteri as my dad.
Agent Kujan. Very nice. I like that. Good call. Bobby, best parent?
There's not a lot to choose from. These cops in these movies, it doesn't seem like Chaz Kuyan. I thought it was Kuyan. In my notes, the first time I spelled Kuyan in my notes, I spelled it Cologna. And then I see it's spelled Kujan. That was kind of strange. It seems like he doesn't go home much. Seems like he doesn't. He's married to the desk. So I would say the only person that looks like they've got a normal job is probably Edie Finneran. So I would say her is probably the best parent. Now she does have an affiliation for ex-felons who shiv people in jail. So maybe not the best judgment, but she seems like the most normal person that crossed the screen in this movie.
And she's also dead. Might want to keep that in mind. I went with best parent,
Right.
Kobayashi. Very loyal, soothing voice, and he's always there for you. So we went there. Now, worst, ton of categories here. Bob, you've kind of hinted at it, so maybe we'll just tee you up. Your worst parent.
Well, it's Kobayashi, because Kobayashi is Keyser Soze, and Keyser Soze voluntarily killed his family. So I'm not positive. Now, we had a couple degenerate gamblers on there that passed up a lot of good choices to take a degenerate gambler as best parent. But I think this is a slam dunk case of worst parent being Keyser Soze / Kobayashi.
Jordan, worst parent.
Worst parent. I just have to do another for Agent Kuyan, why he would be the best. And it goes to another movie, A Bronx Tale, and I can't separate them, is when he locks all the bikers in this bar, and he's like, now you just can't leave. And they just beat the living shit out of these guys. So, I mean, that would be my dad.
I love it.
Worst parent, I would have to say Verbal Kent. He comes off a little creepy. He's a liar. He's just an absolute liar. And he smokes a lot. And I don't, that's not a good role model for your kids.
Well, I think all three of us agree. I just said Keyser Soze. Take it for what you worth, who you think that is, if that's Kobayashi, if that's Verbal. So we've all, in some way, shape, or form, gone with Keyser Soze as the worst parent. And Bob, it was for the reason you mentioned, just killed his family. I mean, he was a will of wills, I guess. The eBay award. What item from the movie, if you saw it on eBay, would you be willing to part with some cash with to have? Jordan, let's start with you. What would you want from the movie if you saw it on eBay?
I would want that gold lighter. I got to be honest. The more I watched that movie, the more I wanted to smoke a cigarette, and I'm not a big fan of smoking cigarettes. But I looked at things that were in the movie, and I'm like, what would I even use? And I'm like, you know what? I could use a gold lighter. And I could be like, you know what? This is Keyser Soze's lighter.
Love it. Bob, did you go with the lighter or did you go in a different direction?
If you could have Keyser Soze's lighter, that's a pretty good one. I don't smoke either. So I'm kind of mad at myself for going a little artsy on this. If you had the original script, that would be pretty cool. If we're saying that this is one of the most well-written scripts out there, having the original script with the coffee stains all over it and the ripped edges, that would be pretty cool.
That would be really cool. Jordan, I thought about the lighter, but I ultimately settled on, I want the bulletin board. Sitting behind me, the bulletin board with all that stuff in there. People come in. Would they be able to figure it out? Would they not? But that would be really cool if you could have whatever was on that bulletin board in Raven's office there, up there behind you. All right, it's time, Bob. You have so many questions throughout the day. Our phone conversations are littered with these types of questions, but we love the rapid fire version of this. So, Bob, I'm going to turn it over to you. It's time for Bob's big question. Let us have it.
This always, and I'll call on you for it, this always amazes me. Jordy, if you had to describe Mark's face to a sketch artist, go.
I would chop off Bart Simpson's head, no red, make it blonde, put, I would say Millhouse glasses on him, and perfect teeth.
That's it. So the sketch artist is sitting there at your bed.
I would say he would be in cuffs within hours.
the sketch, it's impossible how these sketch artists can get to a final face. It's just impossible to, like, as evidence of Jordy's work. I wish we could have, Mark, when we have a budget, I wish we'd have had a sketch artist and then them show what he just said and see if it looked anything like
they would have given me more time. But I got to be honest, I don't know how you would describe anybody.
That's the point of the question. I don't know how that job works or how to answer. You're looking at him, and I know you were trying to make it funny, but what would you start with? Yeah, he's got a forehead. He's got some eyes, a nose. He's white.
I'm uncomfortable. Can we go to the next question?
He's very pink.
Yeah, he's very pink. He's very pink. He's blushing. He doesn't like when people talk about his looks. Okay, Keyser Soze, as we know, a Hall of Fame villain name. Mark, your villain name if you were the devil incarnate.
Steve Bartman. Take that.
Take that. That was quick, too. And you got the Cubs shirt on. Okay. Jordy, your super villain name.
Not works.
Explain, please. Not works.
Sometimes people would say, he sounds like not worst. What I would like them to be like, you don't want to mess with not works. Because they would just call me the not.
It's pretty good.
Maybe I should have given you guys a heads up for that one. Give you some time to prepare. All right. So we've got Finster, Hockney, Keaton, McManus, and Verbal Kent. Mark, which one are you?
I'd probably be Keaton. I have the illusion that I'm in charge and in control, but my wife is in charge. So Keaton, I guess.
Jordy, which one are you?
I would be Verbal Kent because I'm always underestimated.
Oh, always underestimated. Okay. Jordy, which one of your friend group could be Keyser Soze?
Kevin Lawhon.
I have the exact same answer. It's Kevin Lawhon.
No doubt.
Okay. We'll see what he says there.
I would not want those tiny little eyes staring at me, that little smile. He can be formidable.
Mark, better villain, John Doe or Keyser Soze?
I'm going to go. This is a great question. I'm going to say Keyser Soze just for the name and the aura about him. Keyser Soze.
Jordy, same thing. You agree, obviously.
Easy. He's the boogeyman. He's what, you tell your kids, to be afraid of. Keyser Soze.
Mark, two more. Best foreign country for villain.
I think it's Armenia. That always seems like a good one in movies.
I love how you answered that so seriously. Okay, Jordy, best foreign country for Armenia, off the board. Best foreign country for villains.
I'm Russia.
Russia. Okay, good. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard because Jewish usually go with the Germans, and a lot of times everything they say sounds sinister. But I'm a sucker for a Russian villain.
Mark, I lied. I got two more. Mark, who's Keyser Soze?
In Verbal Kent.
Jordy, you agree, obviously, already.
100%.
Yep. And then Mark, I'll finish it with you. Is it Keyser Soze or is it Keyser Soze?
It's the latter.
Okay, good. All right. Perfect. Good job, boys. Hold on. Tally the votes. It's a tie. Strange.
Nice
a tie.
job.
Good job.
Nice job. Good job, Bob. We always enjoy that. Quick one here, Jordy, just for you. You got a Halloween costume that you could come up with from this movie?
I was thinking about that earlier. And I'm sad to say that I do have a vest. And I looked at Verbal Kent's sort of outfit. And you could do the hand. You could do the foot because you're not really making fun of someone who's handicapped because he wasn't handicapped. And I think if you did the hair, you could get maybe somebody to know that you're Verbal Kent from Usual Suspects.
Yeah. I think you could pull it off very well. All right, good job on that. Hot take. Anybody got an against the grain opinion? I have one. Bob, you're kind of shaking your head. Now, you've given us that Keyser Soze is in fact Kobayashi. So I think we're going to leave that one. That's probably the hottest take that you could have. Jordy, anything from you on this one, or do you want me to go?
I want you to go.
What's interesting about this is, to your point, Bob, this whole thing starts because there's one human one human on the planet that can identify Keyser Soze. At the end of this movie, everyone can now identify him. The entire FBI, there's a lot of loose ends. The whole police force, he's made a mess of it. He's really made a mess of itself. That probably lends into your theory a little bit, Bob, that if it's verbal Kent, doesn't matter because it's still some other guy out there. But I just think Keyser Soze, if he is indeed verbal Kent, created a lot of loose ends now. We probably need a sequel. He's got to clear out the entire FBI. He's got to clear out the police station. He's got a lot of work to do. So he made himself a bit of a mess. All right, switching gears to the most emotional moment of the movie, the Rudy Sack Award. Bob, what got you all the feels?
Yeah, I would find it hard to believe we don't all agree on this one. But when Verbal shakes out his hand, he stops limping, he puts the cigarette in, he gets into that awesome Jaguar at the end and looks at Kobayashi. It's just all of it floods over you to be like, what in the hell just happened?
Great. Jordan, you have the same one?
It is, but I got to be honest, right before that, when Verbal Kent looks back at Agent Kuyan and he's like, fucking police. I'm like, look what they did to this poor guy. Just fucking raked him over the coals.
They did. It's a good one. It does have it. The only other one I think comes close to it is when his picture comes out of the fax machine. Because I don't remember when it all, like, it's happening so fast the first time you see it, all this noise and the background and all this kind of stuff. I think when I first saw the fax machine, I was like, holy cow, that was him this whole time. So I would say that, but I agree with the leg straightens, the whole thing there is very good. All right, we've talked a lot about the ending of this movie. It's iconic. It's what puts it in the Hall of Fame. It's on a short list of great endings, but I have an alternative ending for you guys. Let me know what you think of this. So basically the movie plays out just like it is, but it's Kujan. It's Agent Kujan, who's actually Keyser Soze, and as Verbal Kent leaves, Kobayashi pulls up and kills Verbal Kent. That's the ending to the movie. Would that be a bigger twist and leave you more floored than that? Do you like it, or do you just want to leave well enough alone?
Well, it's kind of more shocking but no, that doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't even know. Yeah, I don't like that.
I would have liked Verbal Kent to just not be picked up by Kobayashi, because in my mind, Kobayashi doesn't exist. This was all just bullshit coming out of his mouth that he saw, in the room. So that was the piece that screwed me. I would have preferred the ending of Verbal Kent straightens his hand out, starts walking, gets on a motorcycle, puts on a helmet, and off he goes, never to be seen again. Because then I know it was just a one-man show.
Yeah, it's probably cleaner, but then you don't get Bob's theory that Kobayashi is Keyser Soze. So I think we're all probably in agreement. This is the perfect ending to that movie, and it sort of makes it. All right, we're coming to the end here. Hall of Fame plaques. This is a jam-packed cast and probably some pretty good discussions. And again, Bob described it great last week. This is just close your eyes. You hear this actor. What are they going into the Hall of Fame as? Let's start with Kevin Spacey. As we've said, an unbelievable actor. He's got a great turn in Seven. He wins the Academy Award for American Beauty. He's Frank Underwood in House of Cards, which has sort of become him later on in his career. But is he Keyser Soze or Verbal Kent in the Hall of Fame? Bob, what say you?
Verbal Kent, and it's just the blink test. The blink test is Verbal Kent. I want to convince myself that he's John Doe, but when I close my eyes, I see Verbal Kent.
Same, Jordan.
There's nothing better than saying Keyser Soze.
It's pretty iconic.
It just feels good.
It does. It does. Spacey into the Hall of Fame as Keyser Soze. Gabriel Byrne, Keaton, not much else on his plate there, so we're going to say yes for that. Jordan, you've already stolen my thunder on Chaz Palminteri. He will always be Sonny from the Bronx Tale to me. This is a great part, but he is Sonny. He was born to be Sonny, so he's going in for that as the Hall of Fame. The other Baldwin, I'm going to say yes. I know you're a big Biodome fan, Bob, but he's probably going in as McManus, correct?
He's Biodome. There's no question. Him, I think it's Pauly Shore. Yeah, not many people have. Unless you worked at a video store in the mid-'90s or early 2000s, you didn't see Biodome.
Agreed. Kevin Pollak, we've agreed, was probably miscast. He's Lieutenant Weinberg, a movie that Bob and I really, really love A Few Good
You,
Men.
Lieutenant Weinberg. Sorry.
He's that. Benicio Del Toro, he will always be Alejandro in Sicario. He's great in this. He's funny, but he's Alejandro in Sicario.
Oh.
I think the final one is a good debate. You mentioned it, Bob. He was also the florist. He's Kobayashi. He may be Keyser Soze. Pete Postlethwaite. Steven Spielberg said he was the greatest actor of all time. I don't know what movie that's from, but what's our guy Pete going into the Hall of Fame as, Bob?
Well, Jordy looks like he's got a hot take ready to get out. Jordy, what do you think?
It's got to be Kobayashi. I don't know anything else he's ever been in. I now want to look him up.
He was the
encourage you to
florist
watch
in the
The
town. Yeah, the
encourage you
town.
to watch Town.
Yeah.
As a florist?
Oh yeah. Ooh, he is
Okay.
nasty in that movie too. He's nasty in that movie too. It's such a good. I go back and forth and I try to do the blink test, and obviously recency bias says it's Kobayashi, but I think he might be the florist. I think he might be the florist.
I vote florist. So he's going in as a town. The greatest actor of all time, according to Steven Spielberg. That's it for me, Bob. What do you have? You usually have quite a bit of nonsense when it comes to Hall of Fame plaques. Entertain us for a minute.
Yeah, so greatest movie poster of all time, and I think this gets a almost a separate category because it's from the movie, which is way more rare than you think. Very rarely is the movie poster straight from the movie. A couple of the best ones that are straight from the movie, Rocky is a silhouette of him on top of the stairs, and that's as iconic as it gets. The Exorcist with that spotlight above where the guy's kind of at the top of the stairwell ready to go down there. Scarface is technically from the movie, but I mean, it's just him standing there, but it's a great movie poster. Other nominees, Full Metal Jacket. It's that helmet with the buttons on it, which is great. Platoon. That's actually from the movie. Platoon is from the movie. There's the dog tag ones, but then there's the one where is it William Dafoe out in the middle? Yep. E.T. is just an awesome movie poster. Godfather, just the word Godfather with the puppet strings, and then Jaws, which is not from the movie, but it's the woman swimming with the shark coming up. Anyone I missed or anyone you would vote on for best movie?
I just think you mentioned so many that are. This is good. The lineup is cool, but the minute you start getting into Rocky and Jaws and The Godfather, probably going to have to go with that over this lineup movie poster.
E.T. for me, I can remember. I can't remember the movie poster. I can remember the commercial for the movie, and I had no idea what it was about.
It's basically it's
scattering.
It's E.T. and Elliot on the bike and the silhouette of the moon, which is
that's
amazing.
Cool. I was thinking Poltergeist. Little girl sitting in front of the TV.
Oh yeah, that is a good one. That is a good one. The greatest villain, I don't think it's that. I think it's we've already debated this. We actually brought it up with the sisters or the warden or the guard in Shawshank. I just don't. If we can exclude Darth Vader, it's worth a conversation. But greatest villain of all time, Mark. I guess I spoiled you with Darth Vader.
You kind of took Darth Vader away from me, who will always be the greatest villain.
Him right off the table.
Yeah, took him off. Then I guess I'll just go with the Joker. I know I'm going to win. I'm going to turn you on that. Heath Ledger's Joker.
Jordy, greatest villain in a movie, The Eye of
Cruella
Sauron.
DeVille made a coat. Cruella DeVille made a coat out of puppies. Is that not a great villain?
God, I hope we're close to the end of this podcast. Did he just say Cruella DeVille?
He did.
No,
he did.
It's Sauron.
Sauron. Okay. The Eye of Sauron. Movie that produced the most actors that found their way onto CBS sitcoms in the early 2020s. The IMDb of every single one of these actors has Blue Bloods, CSI, all these CBS shows. I kind of went down a NYPD. I went down this rabbit hole of where all these people ended up, and they all ended up on CBS. And my father-in-law watches every single one of them. I mean, every single one of those shows.
Take your word for it.
And last but not least, the unintentional commercial for the greatest publicity of all time Did you know that there's a New York finest luxury car service that services Westchester and the North Bronx? And there's also one called New York's finest taxi cab service.
Is that right?
Yeah, just Google it. It's right there. They're just serving Westchester and North Bronx. I'm sure it's a great company. I'm sure their sales will go through the roof after this podcast goes live.
I had no idea. Once again, Bob, bang up job by you. The Hall of Fame Black is done.
Appreciate it.
Our final award, the MVP of the movie. Could maybe look. You probably thought it was going one way. Jordy, who gets the ultimate prize? Who is the MVP of The Usual Suspects?
Kevin Spacey, Verbal Kent. Done. Not even a question.
Bob?
Yeah, I want to go against the grain and say it's Kobayashi. It's Kevin Spacey. It's the character of Verbal Kent, not what he is, what he isn't, but he is awesome.
Agreed. Clean sweep for Spacey. The movie doesn't work without his unbelievable performance. Jordan, this has been a blast. We're excited to have you on for this movie. We cannot wait for the Lord of the Rings epic trilogy that we will cover at some point. Bob, thanks for being on. We're going to lighten the mood up, Bob, a little bit next week. A little tease there. Before I get to that, thanks for following us on Spotify or Apple. Please give us a rating. Give us a like. You can also follow us on Twitter or X at the Pozcast. But Bobby, next week, Ricky Bobby Beller, Talladega Nights. Any initial thoughts? Will Ferrell, what do you got?
If you are not first, you are last. I cannot wait to do. You think LOL will have some stuff in that category for Talladega Nights?
It amazes me it's taken us this long to get to Will Ferrell. He's our guy, but that is going to be a fun one with Mr. Beller next week. Until then, this has been the Pozcast.